Hi everyone, my name is Neshunna Jones, and the author I chose to do my discussion on is Marcus Garvey, a prominent, a proponent of the Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism movements, inspiring the Nation of Islam and the Rastafarian movement. Let's see. Marcus Garvey once said, "A people without knowledge of their past history and origin and culture is like a tree without roots." So, early life for Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was born in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, on August 17th in 1887. He was the youngest of 11 children. He inherited a keen interest in books from his father, a mason, and made full use of an extensive family library. At the age of 14, he left school and became a printer apprentice, where he led a strike for higher wages. From 1910 to 1912, Marcus Garvey traveled in the South and Central America and also visited London. In 1914, Garvey founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA. This organization was found to work for the advancement of people of African ancestry around the world. Its motto is "One God, One Aim, One Destiny," which also can be found in our book on page 37. And its slogan is "Africa for Africans at home and abroad." The broad mission of the UNIA ACL led to the establishment of numerous auxiliary components, among them the African Legion and the African Black Cross Nurses, plus businesses such as Black Star Steamship Line and the Negro Factors Corporation. The background used on this slide is actually the UNIA flag, also known as the Black Nationalist flag, using three colors: red, black, and green. So the main goal of Marcus Garvey's ideology was to establish a country and absolute government of their own for Black Americans. After working with Booker T. Washington, the American educator who founded the Tuskegee Institute, Garvey traveled the United States in 1916 to raise funds for similar venture in Jamaica. So he settled in New York City and formed the UNIA chapter there in Harlem to promote a separatist philosophy of social, political, and economic freedom for Blacks. In 1916, Garvey began publishing the widely distributed newspaper called The Negro World to convey his message. So, by some of the accomplishments he made was quite a few. By 1919, Marcus Garvey and UNIA had launched the Black Star Line, a shipping company that would establish trade and commerce between Africans in America and the Caribbean, South and Central America, Canada, and Africa. At the same time, Garvey started the Negro Factories Association, a series of companies that would manufacture marketable commodities in every big industrial center in the Western Hemisphere and Africa. Garvey also unsuccessfully tried to persuade the government of Liberia in the West Africa to grant land on which Black people from America could settle. Unfortunately, that was not a success. In August 1920, UNIA claimed 4 million members and held its first international convention at Madison Square Garden in New York City. So, within our readings, When Harlem Was in Vogue by David Lewis, we learn a lot of history that I researched about Garvey as well in the book. However, the readings also give a little more insight on what scholars and intellectuals thought of his work. As you can read on page 37, we learn that socialists, Marxists, and Black nationalists supported Garvey. People such as Asa Randolph, Chandler Owen, Cyril Briggs, W.A. Domingo, Herbert Harrison, Richard B. Moore, they all applauded Garvey's ideologies and Back to Africa movement in the beginning. However, many people were against him more than they were basically, I guess, for him. Many Garveyites were considered outlaws, and the UNI was referred to as the ugliest Negroes in America. W.E.B. Du Bois was a prominent Black leader and officer of the NAACP, called Garvey the most dangerous enemy of the Negro race in America. So W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey didn't have the best history together, as they believed in two separate things. Garvey believed Du Bois was the agent of the white elites. On page 44, it states that the Afro-American leadership united they created a Garvey Must Go campaign, and eventually Garvey was under constant surveillance as FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's fixation on ruining Garvey for his radical ideas. Spies were placed in UNIA, and Starlight was sabotaged by damaging the engines. 8 members of the Afro-American leadership signed an open letter to ban Garvey's movement, and soon the UNIA was unwelcomed as well as unfinished. So in conclusion, in 1922, Marcus Garvey, as well as 3 other UNIA officials, were charged with mail fraud involving the Black Star Line. The trial records indicate several improprieties occurred in the prosecution of the case. On June 23rd, 1923, Garvey was convicted and sentenced to prison for 5 years. Claiming to be a victim of politically motivated charge of justice, Garvey appealed his conviction, but he was unfortunately denied, and in 1927 he was released from prison and deported to Jamaica. He continued his political activism and work of the UNIA in Jamaica, and then moved to London in 1935. Garvey he collaborated with an outspoken segregationist and white supremacist. This was the Senator Theodore Biblo of Mississippi, to promote a reparations scheme. With that, they tried to create a scheme called the Greater Liberia Act in 1939 that would deport 12 million African Americans to Liberia at federal expense to relieve unemployment. The act failed, of course, in Congress, and Garvey lost even more support among the Black population that did once support him. Garvey died in London in 1940 after having several strokes. His body returned to Jamaica, where he was declared the country's first national hero. In remembrance of him, Garvey's bust has been displayed in the Organization of American States Hall of Heroes in Washington, D.C., and the country of Ghana has named its shipping line the Black Star Line, and national soccer's team Black Stars in honor of Garvey. Through my research of Garvey, learned a lot about him. There was a lot of people that were against him, and very few that were for his movement. We can see that Garvey was definitely somebody who wanted all African Americans here to come back to their roots in Africa and basically start a colony of their own. I hope you guys enjoyed my recording. recording, and thank you for having a great semester with me. Bye.